Hello, students. It's nice to see you and welcome back. This is a big episode. Today it's episode 20. Oh my goodness. We've reached episode 20. And I just want to say thank you to all my students who've been watching, commenting, sending me emails or line messages. And I hope you've really been enjoying this online lesson. I've certainly been enjoying it. I love making these videos and I'm reading a lot of like textbooks and science and history and all these different subjects to get inspiration and make these really interesting articles. So I really hope you enjoy it. I'm going to keep going. Let's make it to 30, 40, 50, 100. Let's see how high we can go. Today, we are going to talk about living longer. I've had the honor of teaching many students of all ages, and some of my students are over 80 years old, and they're really healthy and they're really energetic. They go out, they have clubs, they do many different things, and it's just incredible. And there must be some science behind that healthy life or that long life. So today, our article is talking about genetics versus healthy habits, the science of living longer. Genetics, it means like DNA, your genes. So the things that make up who you are, like your eye color, your hair color, and there are doctors that study genetics. They are called geneticists, and they believe and they've found DNA that makes people behave certain ways and changes people's habits. And we're going to read about that today. So let's look at the article. Everyone, you can read along, and I hope you enjoy today's news. All right, genetics versus healthy habits, the science of living longer. This week, we are going to look at the science of living a long life. Which is more important to living a long life? Good DNA, meaning good genes, or having healthy living habits? Scientists have begun looking at the genes of small, isolated communities to better understand the illnesses of old age and how they might be avoided. Those scientists have looked at 3 different communities, one in Italy, another one in Ecuador, and the final one in the United States. These scientists are studying the genes of these communities and seeing if they can help everyone by discovering ways to keep people healthy. The town of Molochio, a small mountain town located in the far south of Italy, has a population of 2,000 people. But in that population, there are 4 people over 100 years old and another 4 people who are 99 years old. A geneticist from an Italian university went to Molochio to study these people and try to find out the reasons for their long life and health. He met a 109-year-old man named Salvatore Caruso, or maybe Salvatore. Caruso was in great health and had a strong mind. Remember, he's 109 years old. He talked about the death of his father in the year 1913. Also, how his brother almost died in the Great Flu epidemic of 1918. And finally, about how he was dismissed from the army in 1925 because he fell down and broke his leg. The geneticist asked how he has lived so long and in such good health, and his response was, no drinking, no smoking, and no women. He also said that his diet consisted mostly of figs and beans while growing up. He hardly ate any red meat. The geneticist talked with several other 100-plus-year-olds called Centenarians, who talked about a similar diet. The geneticists went to Molochio to do more than interview the Centenarians. They also collected and studied their blood. And what they found was very interesting. They noticed that in the Centenarians' DNA in Molochio was a gene that affects their sense of taste. This gene makes bitter foods more attractive, like broccoli and field greens, which makes their cells healthy and improves digestion. By understanding more about the DNA that makes people healthier, geneticists believe that in the future it may be possible to change people's habits, I guess eating habits. Okay, let's move on to Ecuador. In Ecuador, the Llaron people, who are descendants of European explorers of the 16th century, have a very short stature, meaning they aren't tall. They're very, very short. They have a genetic mutation, which is a type of gene that changes their body. In this case, it makes them very short. These people have been isolated in the countryside for generations in Ecuador, passing on their genes to their descendants. The interesting thing about this community of short people is that they are immune to cancer and diabetes. A scientific study done on the Llaron people showed that not a single person had diabetes, and only one person got cancer in their whole population. The reason is they have something called protective genes, genes which protect people from deadly diseases or cancers. Protective genes exist in many different communities all over the world, and geneticists are hunting for communities that live long lives in order to study their genes. But genes alone are unlikely to explain the reason why so many people are living beyond 80 years old and in good health. And some geneticists are saying that genes are only responsible for about 25% of living a long and healthy life. The other 75% is the environment, diet, exercise, and luck. Remember how Mr. Caruso said he broke his leg and he was dismissed from the army in 1925? Well, the soldiers that he knew were not so lucky. The soldiers in his company were sent to fight in a battle in Russia, and none of them came back home. You could say that Caruso is very lucky in that sense. So, what makes people live a long and healthy life? Maybe the more important question is what makes a meaningful life? No matter the answer, it's important to stay happy and stay healthy. All right, well, that's the article for today. We have 5 vocabulary questions, and actually we have 6 discussion questions. I hope you're not upset. I know it's a lot of homework. You don't have to answer all 6. You can choose 5 and answer those to the best of your ability. But first, let's look at our vocabulary. So there are 5 new words, and I hope some of these words are familiar for you. But let's look at number 1. Number 1 is isolated. Isolated means far away from other places, buildings, or people. In the article, the geneticists studied isolated communities. These are populations of people that are far away from other places, buildings, or people. All right, the second word is geneticist. Geneticist, as I explained, is a doctor, which means an expert of hereditary and the variation of inherited characteristics. Basically, this means an expert of studying DNA and how it creates a person. So the geneticists go to these communities, they take a blood sample, they study the DNA, and they try to find out the reason why, for example, the Laron people are immune to cancer, or how Mr. Caruso from Italy is his taste is changed to enjoy bitter foods, which are healthy. Next is dismissed. Dismissed means ordered to leave, removed from employment or office. Again, we're talking about Mr. Caruso. He was dismissed from the army because he broke his leg. So he was ordered to leave the army. Our next word is centenarians. I hope all my students become centenarians in the distant future. But this is a person who is 100 or more years old. All right. Do you guys know any centenarians? Please let me know. And finally, the word immune. Immune. Immune means resistant to an infection, disease, or toxin. In this article, it talks about people who are immune to diabetes or cancer. This means like they are resistant. They can't catch diabetes. They can't get cancer. Their bodies protect them from those diseases. But immune actually has a second meaning. It doesn't have to be about infection, disease, or toxin. It can be like your personality can block someone else's personality. So the second meaning is not affected or influenced by something. So you could say, for example, if you don't like Arashi or something like that, Arashi or exile or something, you can say, I'm immune to the attractiveness of Arashi or something like that. Okay. Those are our vocab words. Let's move on to our discussion questions. Now, there are 6 discussion questions. Again, I'm sorry for making so many, but of course, you guys don't have to answer all 6. Please choose the ones you want to answer. You can answer 5. But if you have enough time, go ahead and answer all of them. I'll look forward to reading them and responding. The first question is, do you think genetics are more important than healthy habits? Do you think genetics are more important than healthy habits? Which do you think is more important for living a long and healthy life? Is it having healthy habits or having good genes, having good DNA? Number two, what healthy habits do you have? What healthy habits do you do? Please tell me about them. Number 3, does your country have healthy habits? Tell us about it. So this doesn't mean what you do, but they can be the same. However, does your country have healthy habits? Are there things your country and your culture does that are generally healthier than other cultures? Number 4, what questions would you like to ask someone who was over 100 years old? If you had the chance to meet Mr. Caruso, what are some things you would like to talk with him about? What would you like to ask him? And number 5, what are some modern ways to stay healthy? And how about traditional ways to stay healthy? You know, technology is always changing and evolving. There are different and new styles of diet and exercise, and our lifestyles change a lot in the modern way. So what are some current modern ways to stay healthy? And please tell us about some very traditional ways to stay healthy. Finally, number 6, do younger generations have healthier lifestyles than older generations? Why or why not? All right, this is the big question about young versus old. Do you guys think the new generation, do you guys think the kids are healthier than the adults? Do you think the elderly keep a more healthy lifestyle than the younger generation? Why or why not, if you choose yes or no? I guess I'll answer one of the questions. So let's see. Does your country have healthy habits? Tell us about them. Well, you know, I'm from America. As you guys know, it's one of the most unhealthy countries in the world. They have many people who are suffering from obesity and diabetes. You know, it's not a very healthy not a very healthy country. But there are many people who care a lot about their health and fitness, and I think the United States has many, many gyms to go work out and exercise in. So that's one thing that my country has. It has a lot of gyms. It has a lot of personal trainers that help you figure out a good exercise routine and a good way to work out and things like that. When I lived in America, I went I went to the gym 3, 4, sometimes 5 times a week, and it was very fun. I loved lifting heavy weights and making big muscles. But since I came to Japan, the gyms are very, very expensive. So I sometimes join one, and for a year or so, I stop going and I cancel. Right now, I have a new baby. It's difficult to have free time, so I exercise by picking up my baby over and over and getting big muscles that way. All right, well, that's all for today's exercise. Speaking of baby, I can actually hear my baby crying now, so I better go help her. Thank you guys so much for joining online lesson number 20. I look forward to all your answers, and I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.